I think lawyers doing this work should take advantage of being in the community. And it sounds very obvious, but I don't think people always think about what that means. Going to meetings, sort of doing informational interviews with potential allies or connector organizations, coalitions, funders who have lots of grantees and sort of know the field very well and know the issues, to really do that needs assessment, to do that sort of informal stakeholder analysis, to really think about, just to learn about the community in different ways, to issue spot. So that was my strategy when I initially was charged with expanding our work in the Gulf Coast 3.5 years ago. And you know, I just called a lot of people. I tried to identify, I basically sort of identified 3 groups of organizations. One, sort of what I loosely call sort of the connector organization, a group that I wouldn't necessarily represent, but knows groups that I could partner with or represent because they're a grantor or because they're a coalition of organizations or an association or something like that. And I asked them to put me in touch with groups, and they did. They were very generous. They convened meetings. I mean, you know, I explained what we were trying to do, that it was pro bono, of course, and that we'd identified that there was really a gap in this kind of assistance in New Orleans. So we are sort of playing that local role. You know, if there was a group in New Orleans, we would go somewhere else where we were needed. And then second were the partner organizations, basically co-counsel, allies, that kind of thing. And New Orleans, a great partner has been the Greater New Orleans Fair Housing Action Center, and others, for instance. And then third, of course, the client organizations, and we represent a few community development corporations, community land trusts, that kind of thing. And eventually, you know, you get sort of we got a base of clients, and that grew through word of mouth and through doing additional outreach events with those same connector groups, you know, who were willing to host us, getting a lot of people, or sometimes a small group, and doing sort of intake in a way, finding out how we could help different groups. And eventually, yeah, word of mouth, and one thing that I really like is we work with organizations and we help them on one thing, and hopefully we resolve it, and they come back to us with more work. And we try not to play a general counsel role, but we'll engage with them on new things all the time. So we've had some of the same clients for a few years now. So it definitely adds a challenge being from outside, but you know, I think there's workarounds, and I do think it'll never be the same as working in a community, but you can, you know, get as close as you can.